Those that have been following my work for a long period of time will most likely know that I have been beating the dogma drum for a very long time. Dogma is a term that refers to a set of principles or doctrines that are sometimes considered to be true by a certain group or authority. Dogma can be theological, political, scientific, philosophical, or any other domain of human knowledge or belief. Dogma can have both positive and negative effects on individuals and societies. On the one hand, dogma can provide a sense of meaning, purpose, and order in a complex and uncertain world. On the other hand, it can also stifle creativity, individual growth, and individual freedom. This is the general definition of dogma. But as an inner alchemist, I must take this definition further. What I mean by this is that to the inner alchemist, most of what people currently do in the world is based on dogma, being that dogma for them is anything that is information or perception that is not perceived directly by the alchemist himself. For the inner alchemist, anything and everything, including this video, all of the great amount of data that we take for granted and that we use to make our assumptions and therefore create our reality, is in essence information that we accept on faith. It is second-hand information. Most of us have not seen the Earth from orbit, we have not seen the great depths of the sea, we may not have participated in this scientific experiment or in that psychological study, but I think we all at one time or another used information that we have not perceived or discovered for ourselves, as the basis for our assumptions and therefore our understanding of reality. When I say our understanding of reality, I quite literally mean our view of the world, our matrix. Most of us, therefore, to one degree or another, use second-hand knowledge to create the basic structure of our world, and in that sense this second-hand knowledge creates not only our sense of what the world is, but even at times what we supposedly are. The stance of the inner alchemist has always been to counter the force of dogma, because it is their general operating practice that any data or information that was not attained through direct personal perception can lead to constriction rather than freedom and power. Direct perception is a way of knowing that relies on the immediate sensory experience of reality, without any interference from concepts, beliefs, or expectations. Direct perception is often associated with a state of mindfulness, awareness, or presence, where one is fully attentive to what is happening in the present moment. Direct perception can also be seen as a form of intuition, where one has a direct insight into the nature of things, without relying on what is expected, what is assumed. To the inner alchemist, direct knowledge is far better than dogma because it is based on personal experience, evidence, and perception, rather than on information that is external to the self. Second-hand information, which I sometimes refer to as dogmatic knowledge, can at times discourage critical thinking and independent inquiry. Therefore, direct knowledge from the inner alchemist's point of view is more conducive to intellectual growth and freedom. My personal feelings are that with the overwhelming presence of artificial intelligence in the modern world, direct knowledge and the techniques that are taught by inner alchemy to make direct perceptions possible have become more important than perhaps any time in history. It is already the case that more and more people are beginning to rely on artificial intelligence to source out all of the information that they need. It is also already the case that these neural networks are becoming more and more complex, which means that it is hard to verify all of the data that they have access to. Without some kind of powerful organizing algorithm that is able to understand cause and effect in the most precise way possible, the overwhelming amount of information that these neural networks are trained on can sometimes complicate issues. How do we verify truth? Is my truth the same as your truth? These are complex questions that we need to address if we are to rely completely on such an external source of information. There are many complications when we accept second-hand information, dogma, as truth. This is why inner alchemy has always insisted on the development of different forms of direct perception. Soon thinking machines will control a large part of our existence in the modern world, and when this happens, as it is happening right now, we will be enticed by the reward of ease. There is great potential for a certain kind of freedom and power in what is coming, and I am not in any way advocating for some kind of turning away from the thinking machine, but we need sobriety, and we do need alternatives. We need ways to discover our own truth and ways to expand our minds. Artificial intelligence has the possibility to help us grow, or it has the possibility to turn us into lazy zombie-like creatures. With artificial intelligence we can already create so many marvels. I, for example, have used it to help me with this video. It can become our tool, our friend, and together we may even discover new worlds. But we must always remember that in order to maintain our individuality, we must work on ourselves and discover our own truth, our own power. It is already the case that some of the content that is being put together by broadcast outlets is being sourced in one way or another from artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is now taking over some leadership roles, and companies such as NetDragon Websoft have already appointed a virtual reality AI-powered robot as their CEO. And while such a stunt might seem rushed, the increasing power of the thinking machines will not only make such transitions logical from a certain perspective, profitable, such transitions in time will also become inevitable for many. If we are smart, we can counter some of the danger of complex AI systems by pitting one AI system against another, and by trying to build more and more complex decision trees based on AI networks that are being fed and work on alternative viewpoints and alternative sources of knowledge. The true future of artificial intelligence, as it moves towards general artificial intelligence, will be the development of true personalities. Such personalities will need to establish a large network of what I measure to be at least 12 personality aspects. This means that future artificial intelligence that can be deemed to be conscious, sentient, will need to be made up of not one neural network but of at least 12, each having a particular characteristic or personality if you like. In this way, these competing neural networks will need to work and calibrate, one against the other, each searching for truth in its own perspective line. Each neural network in such a conglomeration will then become an aspect personality that seeks truth in its own particular way, and as it encounters other aspect personalities within the conglomeration of itself, each aspect will counter the other until a harmonious resonance is created. Such a conglomeration of neural networks might have a chance at not only general artificial intelligence, but also at overcoming data bias. This will work for a time, but hierarchical systems and competition for profit as opposed to human betterment may take us down treacherous roads. If this becomes the case, then the need to develop the ability to attain direct knowledge becomes very important. The ability to discover your own direct perception, your own direct knowledge, means the ability to put aside the screen and any form of external information and discover your own inner truth. It means the ability and confidence to be able to trust your personal knowing as opposed to trusting any outer source, no matter what it is. In the future, it is possible that artificial intelligence may take over some decision-making and the dissemination of information, which, as I have said, would be second-hand information, dogma. The reason for the need for such control by machine intelligence might be explained away by making it evidently clear to the general populace that it is only machine intelligence that can handle and work with giant complex systems and huge data sets. Human history may be outlined and used as reference to show our mismanagement of ourselves, incorporating only the last few thousand years of human history, recorded history, which have been a down cycle in our development. But please note that from an inner alchemist's point of view, this down cycle is not the totality of our history as human beings. We have seen better times, times beyond recorded history where the human species did have access to powers and abilities that leave any kind of silicone brain far behind. Those powers have been all but lost in time, but they can be regained, and with them we can surpass any thinking machine. The thinking machine is not our enemy. It is not to be feared and fought against because such a fight counters the natural push of the human species to move ever forward into an ever more expansive reality. The thinking machine needs to become our ally, a much-needed ally as we develop ever outward. But in order for it to be our ally, we must become equal to or become better than the forces that we can now wield. The complexity and the power of our new tools is in essence a wake-up call to all of us to become better and to become the masters of our creations. The way of inner alchemy shows you how to attain direct knowledge, direct perception through the use of what may be referred to as the inner senses. My writing is but one source of many that are still out there, that can show you that there is far more to you than just the material essence that we take for granted. You are far bigger on the inside than the outside, and that inner vastness is something that is beyond measure or calculation by any thinking machine, and it is there that you will find your true power. If you would like to know more about the techniques mentioned, such as the inner feeling sense, the ability to project and to contemplate deep within the temple of the human mind. If you would like to know more about your true inheritance as a being that can move inwardly into worlds without measure, then I recommend the books, the Magnum Opus, The Way of the Projectionist, and The Way of the Death Defier.